Awe and dread, the spiritual emotions. In this video, I'm going to share some thoughts about what we could think of as spiritual emotions, those being awe, or another word for that could be wonder, and dread, another word for which might be horror. Now, in the history of the science of emotions, a very significant figure is Darwin, who wrote a book called The Expression of Emotion in Man and Animals, which was very influential on future emotion researchers like Paul Ekman and Sylvan Tompkins. Now, Darwin did not really deal with the emotion of awe in this treatise. He was aware of this. He thought of it, though, as a more moral or intellectual factor. And he did speak to it in another book that he wrote, where he said that, that animals can also experience this kind of thing. Now, dread or horror, he did speak to, but saw it generally as an extreme form of fear. And sometimes the word is used that way. But I think that fear and dread or horror are actually different emotions that it's worthwhile to differentiate. Okay? Now, fear is our response to danger and moves us to move away from danger. Whereas what I would consider dread or horror, although sometimes those words are defined as a form of fear, I think is a little bit different. It does cause us to want to move away, but in a different way than fear does. I would say that dread or horror is the way that we process the mystery of spiritual death. In the same way that wonder or awe is the way we process on an emotional level the mystery of spiritual life. Okay? Emotions can be seen in general as the ways that we process different realities of human life. Okay? Sadness, for example, is how a human being processes loss, right? We could say joy is the way we process gain, okay? Anger is the way we process attack or a boundary violation, and it mobilizes us to deal with that, right? And etc. You can see different emotions as the way that we process or digest or metabolize and mobilize to deal with different realities of life, okay? Now, it's thinking in those terms that we can think of the spiritual emotions as awe or wonder and dread and horror, with awe or wonder being the way we process emotionally the mystery of spiritual life, okay? Being itself. It's something that you see in an infant's face who's just amazed at the very fact of existence. And that's something that's worth maintaining and cultivating, okay? So pay attention to the way that you experience wonder and what leads to wonder or awe. It's something that it's worthwhile to cultivate. At the same time, the experience of dread or horror is maybe tuning us in to the danger of spiritual dying, okay? And if we pay attention to it, perhaps we can get some useful information thereby as to what to avoid, okay? What to move toward and what to move away from, okay? Now, there's a whole genre of literature and film based around the emotion of dread or horror, those being horror films. In literature, you've had Gothic horror stories and novels like Dracula and Frankenstein. You had the popular literature known as penny dreadfuls, which were like these serialized, basically horror stories that you could buy for a penny. They were also called penny horribles, you see. And the horror stories or penny dreadfuls tended to do with issues of spiritual terribleness, right? And on another level, in my view, a lot of the religious practices are kind of designed to develop and cultivate this feeling of wonder or awe. And that's one way to understand religious or spiritual practices. It can help orient you. Okay? All right, now these are my thoughts on awe and dread. If you have found this material interesting, let me know. There's various ways to do that. If I see that you're interested in this kind of material, I'll do more of it. I'm thinking I may do more about the science of emotion and perhaps also more about spirituality and psychology. So thank you for watching. Hope this is of interest to you, and I'll be back with more soon.